Hey everyone, this video today is all about comic books and what sort of comic books I liked and the history of the comic books that I've read and enjoyed and the books I'm still reading today. Big man child, I know. One of the earliest comic books I can remember was a Daredevil comic. Daredevil versus Copperhead, I believe his name was. And it freaked me out because it was like, I think on the cover, Daredevil has these pennies in his eyes. And in the end, Copperhead had dug a grave for him and tried to throw him in there and put pennies on his eyes. But Daredevil, he wound up dying, and Daredevil put the pennies in his eyes at the end of it. Power Records presents Captain America and the Falcon in And a Phoenix Shall Arise. That was a game changer for me because as you grow up and you're reading and things, you know, sure, you're younger and you're trying to sort of read things. I've always read a lot of things when I was a kid, but hearing the voices with this record and these old school headphones, so you had a little 45 that you would hit, and then as you would get to a certain point, boom, turn the page. I wound up getting a lot of the old school Marvel records that had I had Batman and Robin, the Joker's Wild. I grew up reading and liking and still do like the concept of, even though the book itself doesn't exist anymore, Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. Also a shout out to Jason Pearson, Keith Giffen's run on the Legion of Superheroes. So instead of them being Lightning Lad or Cosmic Boy or anything like that, he basically had a very bold storyline where he told them all as adults and them coming back together when they realize that someone has been manipulating time and this isn't how things should be, and how they sort of go to rectify all of that. Keith Giffen was doing the writing and the artwork, and he did this amazing thing where he would have a 9-panel page. Once again, outstanding work there. I did love Jack Kirby's Black Panther, the old Fantastic Four that he used to draw. I was a huge fan of John Byrne. I loved his pencils. So I was reading a lot of Marvel team-up that he was doing. So you'd have like Spider-Man and The Thing. I also read a lot of Marvel 2-in-1. Benjamin J. Grimm, The Thing, is one of my favorite characters. I read a lot of DC comics. A lot of old Batmans, a lot of Superman. As I mentioned, Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. I love the Justice League. I still do. Star Wars came out, and I, at that point, stopped reading superhero comics. I started collecting all the Star Wars comics, so I collected from all the original books up until they started the new series after that, which was absolutely fantastic because back in 1977, 78, we didn't know we were getting Empire Strikes Back. We just thought that was it. And another thing that came out at the time, Marvel put out The Micronauts, which was based off of a Hasbro toy line. And that first issue all the way up until I think it's about issue 12 or 13, written by Bill Mantlo, drawn by one of the most brilliant artists of Marvel back in the day, was Michael Golden. That was one of the most incredible stories I'd ever read. And it was original, it was fun, and once again, it was proof that even though you can have really simple concepts of, oh, we got toys, can you make books to sell this, etc. Yes, you could. And they told a very adult story that's very similar now. I probably will do a story about the Micronauts in another comic book edition of the new X-Men. I'm like, what the hell is this? What's going on here, you know? These guys look interesting, you know. So you had Colossus and so forth. And even though I knew who the X-Men were and I had a few of the older books, I was like, okay, these are the new X-Men, whatever. They brought me back to when I suddenly realized that I had been following John Byrne, and I love Chris Claremont's writing with John Byrne. They're one of the best teams of writer-artists that I can remember. They told fantastic stories. Frank Miller's run on Daredevil. Some people didn't like his artwork style. They said it was too sketchy, it was very so forth, but I thought he could really tell a story in pictures unlike anybody else at the time. Even though I loved really incredibly detailed people like George Perez, who I still to this day love. But Frank Miller's run on Daredevil, to me, is possibly one of the best runs in comics. The Dark Phoenix story and the X-Men, heartbreaking, beautiful, absolutely fantastic, and how they dealt with the fallout in that, with Cyclops leaving the team, Storm taking up the mantle, and the two-part story afterwards that had Wolverine returning to Canada. I have always been a big fan of the Avengers. I'm talking, there were some of the earliest books I had. You know, the comic covers where people were screaming, you know, like when you'd have, I think it was John Romita it might have been, or Sal Buscema, where they had people's heads going, yeah, you know, on the covers of their books and stuff. Oh my God. But then over at the other side of the house, once again, here they are. Marv Wolfman and George Perez, the all-new Teen Titans, and from issue 1 and from that issue all the way through until the pairing sort of ended, I read those books. I still have them all, and I believe that that was one of the best comic runs ever. So you had Robin, Kid Flash, Wonder Girl, Cyborg, the original Vic Stone Cyborg, Gar Logan, Beast Boy, Changeling, for all intents and purposes, Starfire, as I mentioned, and Raven, and they were an amazing team. Then we had what I thought was also DC's pivotal moment, and this is what's actually, I guess, where I'm going to end this rant, but I'm going to sow the seeds for it now. DC back in the day did Crisis on Infinite Earths, a game changer. In the DC comics as well as Marvel, you had a multiverse. So you have Earth, and then they used to have Earth A and Earth B and Earth 1 and Earth 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., etc., etc. This 12-issue book, which crossed over into several other titles, basically destroyed all of that continuity, destroyed all of that, and merged everything into one Earth. Everything changed. The Legion of Superheroes no longer existed because Superboy didn't go back in time for him to be inspiration and join the team. So yeah, that was a really, really good book, and it was possibly, just my opinion here, kids, possibly the only good crossover book that we've had in a long time. It basically restarted everything back to issue 1, and this is where I've got a problem with the current continuum. And then we move into what books am I liking now? Currently, at the moment, I believe the best book on the market, without a doubt, is Doctor Strange. Blood in the Aether is absolutely issue after issue after issue fantastic. Age of Apocalypse, Avengers Forever, was an amazing story. Once again, Carlos Pacheco, his artwork is just so damn good. I loved it. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I think it was a 12-issue series. Once again, it involves creating a team of Avengers plucked from different points in time of their history, who possibly don't all get along, to fight Kang and across time. And it's a very, very out there story. Watchmen, the novel by Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons, absolutely loved it. Had a friend turn me onto that one, and Alan Moore, because he was very cerebral, so he got me onto some sort of other cerebral stuff. And at first I was really blown away by it, and then I really came to love it. I think it's one of the best books that's ever been written about the genre. V for Vendetta. I know that they've made films about these. Once again, another subject for another video, but the actual book itself, brilliant. And also Alan Moore's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. In fact, a lot of the things that Alan Moore wrote when he was actually writing for the big houses, his run on Swamp Thing is unparalleled, old school, and that goes back to that House of Mystery sort of horror books that I was talking to about earlier. Each book was just like this self-contained, almost Stephen King-esque horror story. Told through the eyes of a Swamp Thing. You know, it was fantastic because he changed the idea of the character just not being a man whose essence is put into a swamp and he becomes this creature, but the other way around, that he was actually a vegetable that was infused with the soul of a guy, and he was more of a plant than he was a man. And in fact, Alec Holland was always dead, and he was this unique thing. And I loved that. I loved the idea of him shedding his humanity and embracing the fact that he was a plant. So that's pretty heavy going. I'm a big fan of Nightwing. So yeah, from his earliest appearance in the Judas Contract, one of the best Teen Titans stories ever written, led up just breadcrumbs over issue after issue after issue with a newer member of the team joining up, and how she eventually turns to betray them. And in the classic twist that normally happens, which is what I loved about this story, was the villainess in the end, even though that she was a former teammate, doesn't in the last hour realize how she was possibly wrong, and maybe these were her friends, and they team up against the villain Deathstroke, the Terminator, to take him out. She unrepentantly doesn't die. She has an absolute nervous breakdown, and in a way, I guess, possibly maybe kills herself for all the things that she's done. but she doesn't necessarily change sides. And I found that to be incredibly powerful and moving, because it was shown that some people are just bad. Some people are. What's constantly happening in the comic genre, sort of in the comic field now, at the big houses, Marvel and DC, are constant reboots. So they reimagine the whole thing. You'll have some sort of cosmic event where suddenly everything shifts and we go back to issue 1. So the Justice League, I believe in the last 10 years, has been rebooted 5 times, 6 times. Everything just doesn't have any sort of consistency. And one of the things that I don't like about the genre at the moment is the way that you'll have someone do an amazing run on a line of books or something, and then all of that's wiped out, removed, taken out, we start again. And so it's hard to get any traction, and if that doesn't hold, then they basically, after a year or so of poor sales, reboot everything over again. So once again, these were just my thoughts. Give me a like if you liked the video. Give me a comment below. What sort of books do you like? Who's your favorite writer? Who's your favorite artist? Are you a Marvel only? Are you a DC only? Are you like me and you like both? I had a big run with a lot of the independents, with Image Comics, and they did Wildcats. My God, I absolutely loved Wildcats. I still read Eric Larson's The Savage Dragon, Todd McFarlane's Spawn. Fantastic. So I did get into Gen 13, although the book itself didn't really go anywhere, but it was a really cool concept. J. Scott Campbell, your artwork is amazing, boss. Fantastic. I'm a big fan of writer-artists as well. So, like I said, Frank Miller, his Dark Knight Returns 4-issue story, fantastic. Did I like DK2? Yep. Do I like DK3, The Master Race? It's been very good, I have to admit. Sure, his artwork over time hasn't been the same. He's also gotten a bit older. But I think it's a good run. I'm enjoying what he's doing. At least he's doing something different. And I think that's about everything.